Welcome to the Mind Palace. What is this? This podcast is a continuation of my Thoughts from the Mind Palace series, and I just gotta say that this is like the fifth time I'm recording this, so hopefully I can get my jumbled thoughts in order, so we'll see how this goes. Anyways, like the title says, I have an insane workflow. And by insane, I mean like I only work for like 3 to 4 hours a day due to work, and I somehow manage to get content out every single week. Now you might be asking yourself, how the heck do you do that? Well, let's see how this goes. That was weird. Okay, anyways, when I say that I have an insane workflow, I mean I work a 9 to 5 job that is completely unrelated to animation and music, and I simply work as soon as I get home. Outside of dinner, youth group, music, church, choir, practices, it's weird. I have a lot of stuff to do, and yet I have, the perfect amount of time to work on stuff. So first we got to talk about motivation, because everything comes down to motivation and productivity and how you decide to get into the mindset of being efficient in your work. So for me, what I do is, first of all, I take all of my thoughts, all of my schedules, all my planning, and I get it out of my head, which is ironic because I preach so much about memorization in the Mind Palace. But you get all this stuff out of your head, you put it into a to-do list, like an app like Todoist or something that is able to remind you of things, to remind you of events or things that are coming up or things that you have to do. You get the stuff out of your head and you're able to start planning it visually. So you write down an idea. Let's say, for instance, you have an idea to make a anime opening YouTube trailer. And so you have to think to yourself, like, okay, what are the steps that go into that? And so you start planning that. For me, the starting point always starts by making a new project folder in Google Drive. Google Drive is where I keep all of my files. That's where everything lives. I have backups of everything. And so I have folders set for documents, learning, and YouTube. And that, of course, is split down into music and animation. So for this project, I just titled it Anime OP, and I used that, and I made folders for audio, images, project files, and videos. And so whatever I decide to make in that project lives in one of these folders. And of course, they're split down into other stuff like backgrounds, animations, stills. You get the idea. Once everything is organized and labeled beforehand, then I actually start creating. I create a rough script of what I want and a storyboard to go with it. Usually the storyboard is like thumbnails, really rough sketches. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying to get the basic movement, compositing, and placement down. And trust me, storyboarding and thumbnailing really do help, especially in terms of, planning, changing things, scripting, etc. So you got your thumbnails, you've got your sketches, and so for me, what comes next is audio and sound design and mixing. In this case, I happen to already have a track in mind, so I didn't really need too much audio mixing and whatnot. But say you're doing a storytime animation and you want to sort of, make it seem cinematic, for instance. You can look up free, or you can make your own like background music. You can download background Foley, people talking in crowds, creaks in the floorboard, the sound of a doorknob, the sound of like someone tapping on a microphone, things like that. So start planning out like what you need in terms of sound. If you have people that you're collaborating with, make sure that you get audio lines from them and make sure that, they have multiple takes. Moving on to the actual sound design itself, you don't have to necessarily be the best at sound design. I'm certainly not. The main thing is, as long as your background music is not too loud, as long as you have decent mic audio And as long as, everything is leveled out to where it sounds natural, like nothing movie related, but as long as it sounds natural, like it could be complete silent background and it could just be like you talking, but it's got to be something. Okay? So, yeah. Audio, in terms of like, mixing, there's tutorials, there's people that can teach you whatever it is that you're comfortable, and whatever style video you have, that'll all just depend. Now, how do I make this more efficient? Well, for me, I actually took 10, 20 minutes out of my day and I just started amassing sound files, background music, sound effects, character moments, things that I might say, things that I might do, things that can be reused. For instance, like an intro file. People say their intros like all the time, and so like, why not just reuse that soundbite over and over again? Make it efficient. Things like that. Use the same background music over and over again. Make people know that it's, a video of yours if you're doing that. In terms of, things like sound effects, there's free stuff. You can buy stuff. You can get Epidemic Sound. There's just a lot of things. But as long as you take the time to set it up beforehand, it's going to save you so much time afterwards in terms of like trying to search for stuff. Like, you wouldn't believe how many times I've had to actually start Googling like free audio, royalty-free boots, stepping on wood. I don't know, stuff like that, where I could have just had like, hey, I know where this file is in my file system. So I go there, I get it, it's in my project. Quick. So fixing stuff beforehand, setting things up beforehand saves you a lot of time, especially if you can repeat the template. Okay, so you've got your sound design, you've got all of your clips laid out, you have your storyboard, you have everything set up. So now it's time to actually make a storyboard. So you take the thumbnails that you've made and you just slot them in where you need them to. You can do like basic camera movements if you want, move things around, but the main focus is making sure that everything is, blocked out the way that you need to. That way you're not just like trying to plan things in the dark. Next up, you have backgrounds. Now, this can be in parallel with the actual like character stills and whatnot, and it depends on what kind of video you're doing. If you're doing storytime animation talk to camera, these can just be character poses, have a character doing this, have a character doing this, have a character, I don't know, whatever it is that your style is. Having character stills and in-betweens saves you a lot of time because you can just reuse those. In terms of backgrounds, because you already have your storyboard, you already know, okay, I need to draw this shelf at this angle. I already know that I need to draw this bed. This lamp needs to be here because they're going to be walking past it. For me, because I composite things a lot and because I like to have like a shallow depth of field effect in my videos and like blurry elements, I try to plan out, okay, this is going to be blurry, so this needs to be really big and close to the camera. Plan things ahead. See? You're already like in this planning phase and you're already like in the mindset of, okay, I already know what I have, I already know what I need, and so I can just make it. And the rest is just, taking the time to do it. Okay, so we're in the full drawing stage now, and so this is the crucial moment for you. Turn off social media. I'm being serious. Turn off social media. You turn off Twitter, you turn off Instagram, you put your phone on Do Not Disturb, and you just work. You work, and you focus. And one thing that I really encourage you to do is batch like, the term is batch like tasks together, or batch similar tasks together. So you take whatever it is that you're doing and you just repeat that task over and over again. If you're working on backgrounds, focus only on backgrounds. If you're working on line art, focus only on line art. If you're focusing on characters, focus only on characters. You see where I'm getting at, right? That way you're not in the mindset of, okay, I need to draw this background, draw this character, draw it like this. That way you're working in parallel with everything. So the next tip I have is very important, and it works alongside turn off social media, and it is to get a Pomodoro timer app or whatever it is that works for you. Pomodoro technique is essentially you work in 25-minute bursts, and then you take a break in between, and then another 25-minute burst, and you do that 4 times, and then you take a break, a long break, and then you get back into the swing of things. I tend to not listen to music when I'm working in these because silence really, really does help me get into the mindset of, hey, I need to focus on animation. I don't want to be jamming out to the Beetlejuice musical, or I don't want to be singing along to Dear Evan Hansen and I miss a stroke and I'm just okay, Control Z, Control Z. That may not work for you. That may not work for everybody, but that's my personal tip is silence is key. So you've gotten your artwork out, you've gotten everything there, and so the next step is compositing, and that's easy because for most people, it's literally just drop it into the timeline and move the camera around. You've already made the animations, you've already made the frames, you've already, added the effects. And so you go into post-production and you focus solely on post-production. Go back into your script, remember okay, this needs to focus on this character and then pan to this character. You have everything prepared ahead of schedule so that once you actually get into the task, you're golden. You're literally golden. You have everything planned out. You have everything there, and you can just skim through this part. Add effects, add After Effects, add sparkles, add dust, add whatever. Finish it and export it. Okay? Now, a couple of things here. First things first, you have your animation, and it's done, and you've reviewed it, and you've watched it over and over again until you hate it. Great. But now what? Now you have an entire animation video with different scenes, different characters. You have all of the backgrounds, you have all of the stills. Now you take 30 or 40 of your best clips, your best screenshots, your best scenes, characters, zoom ins, close-ups, whatever. You have 30 of those images already. Put them into a image scheduler for Instagram and Twitter, later.com, Buffer. Just, you have content now for Instagram. You now have content for Twitter, and you can use that as leverage to point back to the video. Okay? So this is sort of a Gary Vaynerchuk / Sunny Lenarduzzi tip, is create micro content based off of your main content. So your main content is your animation video. Your micro content is video clips, GIFs, and images. And you can use that to promote your video. So as soon as your video comes out, you can have 30 plus images scheduled for, the next 30 days. If you have 52 images, you can post one a week for a year, and you could literally not post anything else and you will still have content coming out. That's literally what I've been doing. If you look at my Instagram, for instance, you'll see that a bunch of stuff has been posted day after day after day. And literally all I've done is take screenshots from videos and I've scheduled them so that they come out once a day, every single day, the same time, different hashtags. But it's being able to put all of your effort into one thing and using that one thing to branch out and create a bunch of different content as a result. And I have to really, really thank Gary Vaynerchuk for that. Gary V, just, it's one of my inspirations. And so that's one of the reasons why I have this kind of hustle for things. Overused, but I know. So my question to you guys is, what do you guys think so far? Do you guys think that, this is cool? Do you guys think this is too much work? Well, I'm going to answer you guys right there. It is work, but the problem is that most people think that it's easy to be a storytime animator. Like, it legitimately takes hours and hours of work, and depending on who you are, your skill level, your motivation, your schedule, for instance, it can take hours, weeks, months, even years to even post a video. And so what my challenge to you guys is to prove the haters wrong, the same way that I've been doing it. So create your content, be happy with it, and produce. Create your content and continually post to Instagram. Continue to gain a following there. Link back to your YouTube channel, link back to your Instagram, link back to your Twitter, whatever. And so you might be asking yourself, like, okay, I get that storytime animation takes more work, but what about the people who already make millions of dollars? How about the people who have teams? I don't have a team. Well, I don't have a team either. I've been doing this for like who knows how many years, and like I produce all my content myself. Like, I have my collaborators, I have people that help out in terms of like, reviewing stuff, but most of it's been myself. And I only work for like 3 hours a day, really. And here, I'm going to link in the description my most recent anime trailer. And I want you to look and see, like, this was done by one person. Like, it's not the best, but it's like, it's cinematic. It's something that I'm proud of. And because of that particular video, I was able to screenshot at least 30, screenshots from that and, continually schedule that out so that I was posting to Instagram every single day. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like another thing that people worry about is the fact that if they're working so hard, like, if they'll get burnt out. And I agree that it's easy to get burnt out in this day and age, especially on Instagram. And if you're continually, making content, recording things, the same thing over and over again, it gets like, ugh. The question becomes, how do you love the process and not get burnt out? How do you love the process and not get burnt out? I guess what it really comes down to is continually working on stuff. Yeah, it gets boring to do line art after line art after line art, but look at the end product. Look at what it is that you're creating. If you look back at the final product and you're smiling and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I made it. I finally did it. All this hard work is going to pay off. I'm going to post it. Like, every time I finish a video, I'm literally like standing there giggling because like, this is something I've put like my heart and soul into. And I honestly don't care if 5 people watch this video, because those 5 people are like, people that give me feedback, people that have watched my video. Like, who cares if I didn't get 1 million subscribers? 5 people watched my video. That's already more people than what that I hang out with on a normal basis. It's like, people complain like, oh, like, I didn't get 1 million views on this. I didn't get like a bunch of subscribers. I didn't become like the next Jaden Animations. I didn't become the next The Odd Ones Out. Like, who cares? Who cares if you would become the next Jaden Animations? Like, if 100 people see your video, that's already 100 people. Like, can you imagine like 100 people in a room together, literally like watching your video? Like, that is insane. That's a huge number if you put it into perspective. Like, that's 100 people. That's 100 human beings taking the time to click on your video and watch it, even if it's for like a few seconds or the whole thing. If 5 people left a comment on your videos, instead of 1,000 comments, reply to those 5 comments. Appreciate the fact that, hey, thank you for taking the time to watch my video. Thank you for taking the time to, leave comment, leave feedback, even if it's something like, oh, I didn't like your video. Like, thank you for watching. Like, I don't see how anybody can get burned out that way if they're appreciating every single comment that comes in. Like, even if I get like hundreds of comments, I reply to every single one of them. Even if I get 5 comments, I reply to every single one of them. And I thank them for watching. Like, that's my way of not burning out, is literally just pumping positivity into everything that comes my way. That's it. That's so cool. So, workflow. Workflow is like, I don't know. Some people try to think of like workflow as like, oh, I need to be constantly doing stuff. Like, no, you don't have to constantly be doing stuff. Like, you can literally spend like 5 minutes sketching out ideas, and those 5 minutes that you spend focusing is a lot better than 8 hours spent gaming. It's better than 30 minutes watching one YouTube video and not doing anything. Like, yeah, you can multitask. Yeah, you can kind of like have a split attention, but honestly, putting your mind to focusing on one particular thing brings in way more results than you think. Like, I've literally sat and just like brainstormed ideas for things. Like I literally blocked out 5 minutes. I'm just going to sit in my car and think like, okay, what videos do I want to make? And I came up with a list of like 30 things. Like, just the silence and just like not having the distraction of YouTube, not having the distraction of Twitter. Like, I was able to pump out ideas, and those ideas eventually became videos, and those videos eventually became views and subscribers. I think the problem is that people don't want to take the time to actually put in the effort. Like, that's the two things that people don't seem to get. It takes time and it takes effort. Like, let's take all the criticisms from storytime animators or towards storytime animators. I've seen people say like, oh, this is like a frame and in between in a frame. Like, yeah, it's simplistic, and yeah, it might not be full animation, but if you think about like actual anime, like most of the talking points are literally like the mouth and the jaw, like blah, 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 blah. It's like that, and then it's lip synced to the audio. Like, that's like 3 frames, and yet anime is put on such a high pedestal. Why is that any different than storytime animation? A lot of the, like, the calmer scenes in storytime animations are like a character talking to screen and maybe the camera's panning a bit. Anime does the same thing. Anime has like panning shots of backgrounds, panning shots of just characters standing, and like looping animations of walking and people passing by and things like that. And how is that any different than what storytime animators do? And like anime, they have like millions of dollars in their budget, and storytime animators are putting this stuff out for free. Like, it takes like effort to not see the similarities there. It takes effort to associate storytime animation with laziness when we're putting so much work and effort and time and, you know, energy into what we do. Like, take for instance, like, I don't know, I'm gonna port it back to my videos again. So, let's say you have a video that is not necessarily like the best quality, but you know, I spent like 30 plus hours on it, and like people say like, oh, this came out crap, or people say like, oh, this doesn't deserve the amount of views that it does, or people say, oh, you need to improve. Like, okay, I hear you, but I love what I made, and I see what improvements I need to make. So like, who are you to say like, you know, you suck when I know that I can improve? Who are you to say like, oh, I'm trying to copy Jaden Animations, when in reality, like, I'm just starting out in storytime animation and I haven't found my voice yet. Like, legitimately, we learn how to improve and create our own style by starting from foundations. And if our foundation is the odd ones out, then so be it. We improve our style and we change it from there. If our storytime animations seem like Jaden's stuff, then yeah, we improve from there. We create our own characters, maybe add some hair, take away some hair, add glasses, you know, change your style, change how you do things. Just as long as you're putting in the effort to actually change things, as long as you're putting in the effort to actually, you know, make improvements, then yeah, we're putting in effort. Yeah, we're making changes. Yeah, we're trying to go against the curve. We're trying to be different. We're trying to stand out. We're trying to make sure that we're not one of the thousands of people shouting at Jaden to notice us. We're making sure that we're not the thousands of people that, are trying to be the next Alex Clark, trying to be the next Chip Flake, or so on. Whoops. I don't know why this turned into a rant about storytime animations, but we're gonna go with it. So, I think one of the biggest things that people seem to rag on for storytime animators, especially, is how samey everything gets, if you catch my drift. How people seem to copy, tactics and stories and titles and thumbnails. People seem to copy people's ideas. People seem to copy, doing this to gain notoriety, to gain fame, and so on. And yes, but then again, that's exactly what meme culture is. Meme culture is literally jumping on a bandwagon just so that you can get noticed, or maybe because you want to be in on the trend. Random thoughts, for instance. People were copying, storytime animators who are doing random thoughts videos and making their own videos. And that's literally just a more effort version of taking a meme, coloring out the word bubbles, and putting in your own words, or putting in your own jokes, putting in your own spin on things. It's legitimately the same thing. I don't see the difference. It's literally taking something and making it your own. It's literally taking something, putting in more work to try to make a original thing, or not original thing, and putting it out there. It's I don't see the difference there. Yes, there's controversy. Yes, there's laziness. Yes, there's copying. Yes, there's a whole bunch of bad stuff. But honestly, you gotta put in the effort. You gotta at least put in effort before you can become your own person. If you're starting out, then I'm telling you this right now, as a storytime animator who was starting out, you'll get there. You will eventually find your style. You'll eventually find your voice. For me, for the longest time, my character was literally a circle, eyes, glasses, and stick figure arms. For the longest time, I had a relatively generic looking character until I decided to, change up a small thing here, add a small thing there. And my character went from this to, this. Went from this generic looking figure to somebody that, granted, I'm still bald in this character, but at the very least, if I had a silhouette of my character, you could at least pick him out of a lineup. Of course, I have so many other ideas and things that I want to share. There's so many different things and ideas and stories that I want to tell. And I really work my way past judgment to put my stuff out there. I honestly just don't care at this point. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean this in the quite possibly one of the best ways possible. It's the Gary Vaynerchuk mindset of, I hear you, I hear the feedback, I hear the positive, I hear the negative, but I know my ideals. I know what I stand for, and I know what I believe in. And for me, the thing that I stand for is positivity. The thing that I stand for is making somebody smile. The thing that I stand for is brightening somebody's day by leaving a comment. If you've ever left your 2 cents on a new YouTuber's video, If you've ever gone to Twitter and just searched up Storytime Animator and started following all of the people that, saying like, hey, this is my first video, I want to know what you guys think. Like, if you actually watch their video, like take the time, take the 5 minutes, watch their video, like what I do, and say like, hey, this is awesome. This is a great start. You got the makings of something great. You would not believe the amount of people that respond to me and say like, hey, thank you so much. I don't know where you came from, but honestly, this brightened my day. If you've ever gone to Instagram and seen like people's first posts, if you've ever gone to Instagram and seen like, hey, I may not be the best artist, I may not be the best singer, I may not be the best talker, I may not be the best podcaster, but if you give your 2 cents, or Gary Vaynerchuk calls it the $1.80 or something like that, if you continually like give your feedback and continually double down on like the effort that you put in to like give that feedback, like it's not just going through every single thing and saying like, oh, this is great, this is great, this is great, this is great. Like, no, people can tell that you're not being genuine. You want to be able to look at people's work for what it is, and if it's not that good and you really want to give feedback, but give it in a positive light. Say like, hey, this is a great start. I think this would be improved if you try this, or maybe if you took out this, or maybe like add this to make it a little bit more interesting. Don't be the kind of person that tears somebody down just for the heck of it. Don't be the kind of person that tears somebody down because like, oh, tough love is what's going to give people thick skin. Like, no. Tough love, like, that's one thing, but I've seen tough love just turn people into absolute, like, douches. I've seen tough love turn people into somebody who doesn't really care about anything, and who is the type of person that will make racist jokes, that will make, like, morbid jokes. Like, do you want to be that person? No. So I prefer to be the positive type of person. I prefer to be the person that, and I'm going to be looping this back to workflow and ethics and like how my mindset works. I decide like to put in that effort to, double down on positivity because it's something that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about positivity because it's something that I personally want to improve on. Same thing goes for Storytime animation. I double down on the effort that I put into my Storytime animations, my art, my animations, because it's something that I am passionate about. It's something that gives me satisfaction in seeing the end product. If you want to post content for the sake of getting millions of views, like, good on you, but you're not going to be leaving a lasting impression, if that makes sense. For me, my goal is to bring value to somebody by putting what I put out into the world. And so that's why I started making like micro content. That's why I started posting my screenshots as Instagram posts, because I want to start showcasing what I can do to the world to get feedback so that I can improve, so that I can get feedback so that I can improve. And it's a constant cycle. I constantly post videos and I constantly focus on workflow and ethics and making sure that I'm doubling down on content, making sure that I'm listening to motivational speakers like Gary Vee, like Vanessa Lau, like Sunny Lenarduzzi, so that I can be as efficient as possible, and that way my brain doesn't get burned out. Like, what works for me may not work for you. What works for Gary Vee may not work for you. Maybe you need more sleep. Maybe you need less sleep. Maybe you need more coffee. Maybe you can't function unless you're working through the night. And yeah, that to each their own. That's fine. But as long as you're working, as long as you have something that you are passionate about, then by all means, work on it. Then by all means, find that motivation, find that passion. I feel like a lot of people, friends that I know, they're of two mindsets. They either work themselves to the bone and like, I don't know, it feels like they're constantly working, but they're also constantly stressed out. Or the opposite, the people who seem to be never motivated to do things. And I feel like there could be like a happy middle ground that everybody could reach. To the people who are not motivated, what is something that motivates you? Or let me rephrase that. What is something that makes you happy? What is the thing that you turn to when you feel like you're not creating enough? What is the one thing that you're able to create no matter what? Maybe it's just like sketches of eyeballs over and over again. Maybe it's like, for one of my friends, she constantly draws a specific comic style, a chibi style, something like loose, something that makes her like, not work as hard. To the friends who are constantly like, workhorsing themselves to death. Like, what are some things that you do to de-stress? What are some things that you do to keep your mind in focus and decompress after a long day of work? Where is that happy medium where your workflow is efficient? Where is that happy medium where you're able to work without burning yourself out, but still produce the amount of content that you can do? Whether it be once a month, whether it be like once a week, whether it be once a day. Where is that? I think the next thing I want to kind of focus on is like time. I know I've been jumping around a bit, but time is kind of a thing that people seem to complain about. Like, I've heard people say like, oh, I don't have time to do this because I have homework, or I don't have time to do this because I have projects, or things like that. And to that I say like, okay, well, what is it that you're focusing your time on? And they say YouTube, watching videos, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. Like, what are the things that you're doing that you tend to spend the most time on? And are you actually doing stuff, or are you scrolling through your feed? I find myself in moments where I catch myself binge watching Markiplier or Jacksepticeye playlists. And they're just playing in the background, and I find myself focusing more on that than actually doing things. I find myself watching anime, Steven Universe, and things like that, instead of actually working on something or reading something or recording things. And that's kind of where minimalism comes into play. That's where I've been listening to a lot of The Minimalists or Matt Diavella or Thomas Frank, and trying to find ways to focus in on things. Like, it's impossible for me to focus on things normally, and that's one of the reasons why I started the Mind Palace technique. Well, not started it, I started doing the Mind Palace technique. If you guys need a refresher on the Mind Palace technique, there's like hundreds and hundreds of videos online, but essentially for me, the Mind Palace technique is similar to that one SpongeBob episode where you have a lot of little SpongeBobs running around in your head, except mine are actual characters. Like, if you've ever seen Inside Out, that's basically it. But how I visualize it is, for me, if I'm brainstorming stuff, I legitimately have conversations as the characters in my head. And it doesn't help the fact that I recently cast voice actors for all of my characters, and so I listen to them in their voice in my head, and I have my main character talking to them in my voice. So it's pretty fun. It's actually really refreshing for me. But to each their own. Some people can't focus, some people can't visualize, and that's perfectly fine. I think like a great way to learn to kind of focus in on your mind is legitimately just a countdown method. I know people who have an insanely hard time focusing on stuff, and it's really just less of a matter of focusing and more of a matter of start focusing. And this loops back again to, workflow, work ethic, work productivity, and things like that. And this works for all situations, but try this with me, okay? Focus in on a task that you need to do. It may be something like, oh, I don't know how to start it. Maybe it's like clean the toilet. I don't really want to clean the toilet. So, you have to get it out of the way. Your parents may be upset with you that, you haven't cleaned the toilet. And you're like, okay, I'd rather watch YouTube videos than do this. I'd rather stay up late than do this. Just actually put yourself in the room and just think, okay, I need to do this. 3, 2, 1, and just do it. Don't even think. Don't even stop yourself. Just legitimately go and do it. That's it. That's legitimately the best way to start doing something. If I want to approach somebody and say, hi, I want to show you a magic trick, because I do magic tricks and card tricks, I say to myself, okay, rather than waiting for them to judge me, I'm just going to go for it. So it's like, take a breath, 3, 2, 1, go. Don't think about it, just go. Just go. Walk. You're already walking. Hi, do you guys want to see a magic trick? And if they say no, okay, at least you tried. Or, for instance, say you want to collaborate with someone, or you want to ask somebody for help on a storytime animation. Rather than like waiting like, oh, you know, they're a bigger YouTuber than I am, they might not have time for me, or maybe like, oh, they might say no, or like, okay, you won't know until you ask. Like, legitimately, I sent out like 30 different emails to people, and it was literally a matter of like, hey, do you want to contribute to this video? And people were just like, no, no, no. And eventually it's like, you know, the amount of times that I got a no back is fine, because otherwise I wouldn't have known if they had said yes or no. But it's a matter of starting. And that's something that a lot of people have trouble with, especially in terms of productivity, is starting. So if you have homework and you know that you need to get it done, it'd be like 3, 2, 1, do it. Don't even think about it. Don't turn on social media. Do not open Twitter. Do not open Facebook. Do not open Snapchat. Like, yeah, I get it. You have your snap streaks, but stop. Just, you know, legitimately work on what you need to, get it out of the way, and you'll have more time to goof off later on. And that's the same thing with working on YouTube animations or YouTube in general or videos. Get it done, get it out of the way, and you'll have more time to do other stuff. And it works even better if you can schedule stuff ahead of time. Like, one of my greatest achievements in life is I recorded 30 covers, and I recorded them, I put lyrics, I took a break from uploading just to put in the effort and, you know, make 30 videos. I took the time and I made thumbnails for them. I took the time and I, you know, put in descriptions and links and things like that. And I scheduled them to post once a day for 30 days. And like, you know, if you don't want to post for 30 days, you have, you know, once a week for 30 weeks. That's almost a year. That's almost a year's worth of video content, like, done within like 2 weeks. I can recommend to you guys a really great video by Vanessa Lau, or Sunny Lenarduzzi, one of the two. But there's a video where you learn how to batch content, and you literally just schedule stuff out. And this works for Instagram, this works for Twitter, this works for any platform. You take the time, figure out like, hey, I can make this amount of videos or this amount of posts in like this amount of days, plan it out, plan for that amount of time. So like, say I can make like 3 videos a day, okay? Somehow, by some miracle, I can make 3 videos a day. Well, if I want to post content for 30 days, and if I make 3 videos a day, then I schedule 10 straight days. I make 3 videos, 3 videos, 3 videos. 10 times 3 is 30. I have 30 videos made. Like, that is insane. That is amazing. And then going back to the Instagram thing, if you have 30 videos, then you have at least like, you know, 3 video clips per video to promote that video on Instagram. You have screenshots and things that you can do to promote on your Instagram stories, your Snapchat stories. You have like all of this like micro content that you can create as a result, and it blows my mind. And again, thank you, Gary Vee, for this, but like, being able to produce content is not necessarily just video related. It's not necessarily just audio related or, you know, image related. It's legitimately, you have content and you can use that content to make other content. Like, I've reused videos as an example for other videos. Like storytime animations, you can use videos that refer back to older videos. You can play clips from older videos. You can use, screenshots and, GIFs and animations. Reuse them, reuse backgrounds. Make the process easier for yourself. That's basically what I'm trying to say, is as long as you take the effort, couple of hours a day, put in that effort, and you'll be surprised at how far you can go. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling a lot about all of this efficiency and motivation and stuff like that, and I still feel like people are not going to do that. I still feel like people are not going to do anything, and once again, it comes down to that 3, 2, 1, start. Like, what's stopping you? Why do you care what people think? Why do you care what your parents think? Why do you care about what your friends think? Like, in the end, nobody's really gonna care. I was a awkward person in middle school and high school, and like, I spent most of it like in my head, like judging myself, like thinking like, oh, they're gonna judge me if I do this. Oh, they're gonna judge me if I do that. I'm 25 now, and legitimately, I look back and I think, like, I shouldn't have cared. Like, none of them follow me now. None of them really care about me anymore. None of them have even thought about me. Like, some of them live their lives and they don't even remember who I am anymore. And, like, I was so preoccupied with myself, it's like, okay, I need to make sure I get this right and look a certain way and think a certain way. And in the end, who cares? Like, I'm gonna jump into a certain specific topic here, but I recently got into Dungeons and Dragons, and it's been a very, very fun time. And a lot of my preoccupations beforehand were like, oh, what if people don't like the story? Or, oh, what if people don't like the voices that I do? Or what if people don't like the monster encounters, or don't like the characters that I made for them, or they don't like the scenarios that I put them in? And I got in my head, and it's like, okay, what if? And then when I actually got to the table and people were laughing and smiling, and it was just a fun time, I thought to myself, like, man, that was so dumb of me for thinking thinking that any judgment would come my way. Like, who cares? Like, who cares if you're not the best at voices? Who cares if you're not the best at voiceover, singing, dancing, storytime animations, music, piano? Honestly, who cares? As long as you know your worth, as long as you know that, you are who you are, as long as you know your talent and your worth and your improvements, as long as you can say for yourself, like, hey, I don't care what you think about me, I'm going to post what I'm doing. I'm going to post my life story. I'm going to post who I am, why I do things. It's honestly the most liberating feeling in the world. It feels like I can post anything about myself and I couldn't care less. One of the things I've been doing recently is going into Twitter and Instagram, literally typing in storytime animation and just going in and joining conversations about storytime animations. I've had people who say like, oh, how come storytime animation people are so introverted in real life, but they're so extroverted on camera? And I put in my 2 cents saying, hey, people have online personas. They might be okay, being extroverted online, but in person, put them in a public speaking space, and hey, we're introverts. And I said, speaking from public experience, I've been through that. I have that life knowledge, and I'm sharing that with you. And they actually responded back to me saying, oh, thank you so much. I was having a hard time understanding that, and now I see it. So there's that. There's one person who says, hey, how come, people are copying Jaden animations? How come they don't improve? Why are they being so lazy? And I gave examples of people that weren't lazy, people that actually work to improve, people that work to achieve a better way of doing things, people that have gone from stick figures up to these amazing animation industry quality animations. And their mindset was like so weird. Their mindset was just like, oh, I don't care. Everybody is the same. Everybody in that fandom is toxic. Everybody, does this or copies this or does this. And I was just like, okay, you know what? I gave my 2 cents. I'm not going to convince you. Have a nice day. Like, I don't care what you think of me. You don't know me. You don't know the context of my work. You don't know the context of my workflow. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know my life story. You don't know their life story. You have never been in Alex Clark's shoes. You've never been through what Jaden Animation has gone through. You've never had the life experiences that James has had, or Adam, or Tim Tom, or anybody. Like, you can judge Illymation, you can judge Cypher Den, you can judge Toonsy, but you don't know them unless you're them, unless you're one of their close friends, unless you're somebody who knows them and have talked to them like for years and years and years, to the point where it's like, hey, I know you and I know the real you, and this isn't you. Like, who are you to say that this person is a copycat or this person is lazy when you don't know their art journey? You don't know their hero's journey. You don't know, like, the struggles that they've been through to get to where they are. Like, have you ever been on the other side of a bullhorn where like millions of people are shouting at you to do this, or they ship you with this, or they tell you, hey, post this, or change this, or like, we don't like you because of this? Like, especially with today's internet culture, it's like, that's one of the reasons why people don't start, is because of that prejudgment. It's because of that like lack of motivation. It's that lack of like, not so much lack of not caring, but it's like people care so much about what other people think. Like, who cares? Who gives a damn about like what people think about your art style? It's your art style. It's you. Yeah, hopefully that made sense. It was just a lot of rambling, which is pretty much what you can expect of me with this channel. So hopefully all of that made sense. Hopefully you guys took something from it. I want you guys, if you guys made it this far, thank you guys so much. I want you guys to leave a like, leave a comment, and, share this video, share this podcast, share this clip or whatever it is that this is. Leave a timestamp of your favorite part and leave some feedback. Give me some of your life experiences. Let me know who you are. So, yeah. Thank you very much for listening in. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. God bless, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.